Friendship is always the best way to start once we're building a relationship with someone.
Over the time, I came to have more understanding about what I really want when I started to look after myself.
It took me so long to figure it out what I really want because I'm also trying to figure it out what I need. Hello, 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 aloha. I will be joined by the very beautiful and outstanding fellow trans women, one from Japan and one from Switzerland. There are so many questions that trans women ask about dating. These common questions does not limit to trans women alone, but we wanted to focus. So we're doing this because we wanted to create a safe space. We wanted to normalize conversations about the challenges that trans women go through when it comes to dating, to help people learn about how difficult it is for trans women to find a serious relationship. The question is, I have been on a dating site for so many years and I am still single. Why?
The reason why is I did have a high standard before. It was difficult for me to find the right person. Expecting too much or comparing the relationship that I had in the past. I have the expectation. I always had that high standards. Like, I prefer this guy, this person, which is not realistically. Over the time, I came to have more understanding about what I really want when I started to look after myself, when I started to see what kind of relationship, what kind of people I want in my life, like friends or people that I hang out with. These realizations came out later where I really figured out why now. It took me a while to really find the right person for me.
I think we all do have standards. We need to start there, right? Because I think standards provide us a template in what we're working on. Like, what is it that we want? But when I talk about standards, it goes beyond physical standards. It goes beyond what we can see. Like in retrospect, I felt that I was single for the longest time because number one, I don't really want to date Filipinos. That's for sure. That's 100% sure. So, I mean, I gave it a try, I guess, at least once or twice, but more of like casual conversation. But in me, really, I don't see myself thriving in that relationship. So to me, that was clear. Number two, I was very clear too that I want to have kids. So to me, having a kid in building that family is important. So those two things are, I would say, goes on top of the list personally for me. Third, which does not necessarily trump two and one, but I think it's also equally important, are the values. Like, what values am I looking for in a person?
Thank you. Thanks, Paulie, for bringing that up, which actually leads me to a very good angle because not a lot of trans women have this conscious thinking about what do I need within me so I will be able to find the person that I'm looking for. And the reason why we actually don't have that conscious thinking of what are the things that I need to improve, it's because we wanting and continuously needing a validation. And unfortunately, validation always comes from those romantic relationships. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is completely from my experience. As a co-founder of my transgender date and also a user, it took me so long to figure it out what I really want because I'm also trying to figure it out what I need. I think the best thing to do is really empower and encourage our trans sisters to be brave enough to consciously think how to grow oneself, how to be the best version of yourself. I know it's cliche as it sounds, but trans women needs to be more empowered.
I mean, the basis of transitioning is really investing in yourself physically. If you have gender dysphoria, for example, you invest in yourself physically, but up until when will you be investing yourself physically, right? On the physical aspect of things. And if that will only be your investment, and then you move into relationship, and the first question is, tell me more about yourself. What do you do? Try to think about building a relationship with someone. Finding a partner is easy. We can do that. Anyone can do that. But to be able to thrive in a relationship, you need to communicate. You need to have like a basis of something worth talking with, or perhaps like you need to be interesting, right? To be able to sustain a relationship even, or even to find a partner. So when that conversation happens, and I'm sorry, I'm saying this because this applies to everyone really, regardless of gender. That first question is, okay, so can you tell me more about yourself? It's like a job interview, to be honest. And then you start talking about what you do in life. And probably you say, well, I do this, I'm currently studying, I'm planning to do this, and blah, blah, blah. You're building your profile basically. So if you look at your profile and your profile looks flat to you, then it will be flat to the other person too. It's like, what have you been doing for the past 30 years? Has it just been physical enhancements? Which is, again, is important depending on gender dysphoria. It's not victimizing anyone, but I'm talking about invest in both. If you have invested on the physical aspect, which we had definitely through the years, what is it that we're investing to expand ourselves? I don't know, if you're into your career, what are your creative pursuits in life, for example? What are your hobbies, for example? These are the things that makes you look rich, full. And I think that is also something that you can bring to the table during the discussion.
Because this is also a very interesting angle. Let me show this to the screen. She said, maybe because dating site is not my thing. I mean, it's so hard for me to trust someone. The problem with me is trust, because I've been fooled many times. I know it's pathetic and sad. You're not alone, I must tell you.
I think this is very common because we all went through that too.
Yes.
And trust me, this is an inclusive, across the board experience to anyone looking for a partner. Trust is important. That's why boundary is equally important. If we look at finding someone and then we feel like we immediately doubt someone because of our previous experience, then we definitely have not healed yet from that previous experience. Any memory that has an emotional charge means to say that that needs healing. So I like this concept called anti-fragile, because you have resilience. Resilience, if you look at like a rubber band and you try to maximize the size of the rubber band and you release it, it goes back to its original form. But I want you to practice anti-fragility. And you can, there's a YouTube video for this too if you want to know more about it. But the concept of anti-fragility is stretching the rubber band, and when you release it, it stays the same or it adapts. The form becomes different. It means to say, whether or not you have been fooled before, let that experience be a lesson so that when you move to the next relationship or when you meet someone, you will not be thinking that this person will potentially hurt you. No, that was lesson learned. So if we did not learn from that lesson, then definitely we will carry that fear on the next person that we will meet. And we will constantly think that people will just gonna fool and cheat. It's not true. You will meet people that has good intentions. That let that not experience be a template of that fear. That just be an experience, and it should be an experience, a lesson per se, while you're looking for someone that you can be with.
That's why it needs an evaluation of what are those experiences in the past and how can it help us grow.
I'm still continue healing now. And I think it's really important that you heal yourself in order for you to have the improvement and also to build that confidence to embrace my real identity as who I am, and also to practice self-love and self-care. That really helped me a lot towards understanding about relationship about myself, because I think it goes back to having that relationship about understanding about yourself first before you can understand other person who can love you and who can serve you.
So it's all about manifestation. So if you are in that experience, or if you are in that situation where you do not feel like you are ready to find someone, stay away from saying, I cannot find someone. Be true to yourself that you are not ready. Because if you're going to say, I cannot find someone, the universe will give it to you and you won't be able to find someone. Better yet, as what Paulie and Tiffany said, better find yourself first, heal first, and from there you grow. I believe it's really important to be brave enough and look at yourself in the mirror if there is something that you need to work on to yourself or within yourself before showing and sharing yourself to somebody else.
You will know that you have fully healed when you go back to that memory and it doesn't bring any emotions out.
Also think that you already know that you are fully healed if you go back to those past experiences and you learn something from it.
Which is secondly, seek the wisdom, the one that you had, because there's no emotional charge, then that experience was transformed into wisdom.
Mm.
And because there is wisdom, the third that you want to look for is, did I react differently when it will happen now? Will I react differently? Let's say, for example, you were cheated on before. Let's say, for example, because it was the example that was given before. And then you had a specific reaction. Now, for example, that's happening again. Am I reacting the same or am I reacting differently? And that too is a sign of healing. In terms of being ready for a new relationship, and I like this because Mackie mentioned this before, being in a relationship does not mean that we are 100% healed. Sometimes we are in a relationship and we are still healing, or we have not healed yet. So perhaps while in that relationship, you also become mindful that, okay, do I feel like something in me needs healing? And can I heal myself while in a relationship? So that's why I said these
two
two
different things.
questions are two different things. And you can be in a healing phase while in a relationship.
Okay, let's say I am ready. Let's say I found someone, but then the next stage is, how can I be sure if this guy is really into me? How can I be sure if he is genuine? So what are the signs that the guy is into me? I would say follow your gut. Really. There's no handbook that would actually have a checklist. Well, perhaps we have our own checklist to identify those red flags and green flags of a man based on our standard. But onset of looking at someone's profile or dating someone physically, you really have to follow your gut. You need to feel if these profile, the way you have a conversation, evaluate your feeling, evaluate the type of conversations that you have, if it aligns to what you are looking for.
Consistency is definitely a key. If they show that consistency and they're taking time to really get to know you, I think that's one, for me, that's one definitely a good sign that he's really into you. And when you finally met in person, and then that relationship build up to like he's introducing you to his friends, to his colleagues, to his family, then that's another good sign. When he invites you to his favorite place, his favorite hobbies, the games that he plays, like, you know, like, because he wants you to be a part of it. I think those are another sign that I think that is very, very positive. One thing that I think distance is not, it doesn't matter to guys. If they want to see you, they're gonna come all the way from how far you are. They're gonna come and see you. And I think we all have that
Period.
I mean, we're looking for signs, but signs can vary depending on how we perceive these signs. And some signs that they're also not showing is something that we don't read as well. So it goes both ways. But what I liked about what you said, Tiff, that I am a firm believer of in terms of answering this question is consistency. I would say that the person would like you to be in their life or include you in their life if they're consistent. And I think the basis for that creates a solid foundation is really friendship. Once you feel that this conversation feels like it's for friendship, then that's a good sign. Because again, I think it will be very weird if after 3 weeks you've been saying I love yous, or perhaps 2 weeks you've been saying I love yous. Probably he will, but probably you feel like, okay, is this the right time to say it? I mean, probably it's too early to say this. The moment you have those doubts, then definitely it's probably a sign to just take it slow a bit and focus on friendship. Because the moment you focus on friendship, there's no tension, there's no stress that comes with expectations. It just flows well, perfectly well. So go back to how am I making friends before? What are the type of conversations that I ask my friends? What type of conversations are we discussing even during chat or when we were talking? Again, friendship template applies to this, and that will probably lead to something or, to friendship. Who knows? But again, friendship is always the best way to start once we're building a relationship with someone. A guy traveling to the other side of the world, let's assume that the guys from the West and travels all the way to the Philippines in the plane for 18 hours, spend thousands of dollars just to go there, for example. And then the first thing that comes to mind probably for a lot of these guys is just like, let's see what I can get from the Philippines, or let's see what type of people I'll meet there. The moment that answer becomes wishy-washy, categorize that as friendship. Okay, friendship for now.
Yeah.
And you can never jump your gun and say, oh, this is like, I need to ask if I'm part of the plan, because it could be still in that phase of friendship. The less hurried a relationship is, the better. The more hurried it feels like, be wary. That is really something that we have to watch out for. Going too slow is even better.
Because if we're going to talk about online dating, it's really important that you take your time getting to know someone. But in getting to know someone, it should also be consistent. How to make it this very simple. Slow in a way that for a month or two, you are talking about plans of meeting in the future. You're getting to know each other. And also in that 2 months period of time, make sure that you are consistently chatting, not just in 2 months of time, you only chatted once a week. I mean, that you have to consider too, if you really wanted to be technical about knowing if the guy is into you. But then it still goes back to like following your gut.
At the end of the day, we just have to follow our gut, really. But it's great to balance the gut feeling with logical thinking. And that's why you have these parameters too of red flag versus, green flag. That anchors us. But at the same time, you have to go back to the gut too and try to analyze what your gut is saying and what the facts are saying. Sometimes can be very tricky because it needs experience, it needs wisdom to be able to follow the gut. So anchor that with these flags and try to do a cost benefit analysis of what am I getting myself into? Will it be trouble or it will be a good experience? But again, don't be afraid to have those types of tests. That's important. That's critical.
I just want to add up to that, a guy who is very respectful, who knows how to communicate with us by using the appropriate language, and also of all the important things, of course, like the acceptance of our gender identity.
It comes with the number of times that you had initiated a conversation or be in that conversation. So I guess the more you expose yourself to conversations such as this, to a guy, in the dating chat, in this space, the more you are flexing the muscle. Because again, dating can be tricky because really we have to learn it on our own. And having that ecosystem that's safe, that we can talk about it openly and not fear about it being talked, I think that's part of flexing the muscle. Before I even open my heart, invest in planning, etc. What are the values? Like, am I having fun in this conversation, or do I feel like this person doesn't really get the values that I want him to present himself? I mean, at least as a partner. So again, go back to values, because values will carry you through in the relationship. Without good basis on what values you firmly believe on, don't expect that will happen while in your relationship. So anchor yourself with friendship, values, just like what Mackie and Tiffany mentioned. And I think, you will be led to the right person. Your gut will lead you to the right person.
To sum it up, for me, I would say it really goes back to you being prepared, because dating is like, as somebody actually said, it's a risk. And you need to know that part of the risk is getting hurt. And if you get hurt and if you don't know yourself well, you will totally be lost. But if you know yourself, you know who you are, you know your values, you know your worth. Even if you get rejected, you always go back to who you truly are and say, okay. And having trans sisters who are working on this is really a big help. And I am so grateful that you have shared this platform with me.